Hello and welcome to another episode. I was on vacation and I could not wait to come back because today we are talking Narcos. That's one of my favorite shows. And also, did anybody watch Hands of Stone? All this and more on this episode of Will Weekly. So let me tell you guys, I could not wait for the second season of Narcos, the story of Pablo Escobar, because the way that first season ended was so good. I mean, he's in prison, the Colombian military is trying to go in there and trying to snatch him up, and I'm thinking, how is Pablo going to escape this?
Pablo was never more dangerous than when you almost have him. Pablo Escobar se le respeta. These guys aren't fighting by the same rules, so why should we? You know what that means? Oh, I do.
Going into this new season, I was a little worried that it wasn't going to be as good as the first one, but I am happy to say this second season of Narcos was awesome. I mean, without giving too much away, in this season, Pablo is being hunted down by the Colombian government, US agents, the Cali cartel, and these new group of vigilantes called Los Pepes. And let me tell you, these guys take crazy to a whole nother level. And it was really interesting to see Pablo trying to fight off all these different groups while at the same time his empire is slowly crumbling. And also, episode 6 was one of my favorite episodes because that's when things really hit the fan and it was a total game changer. So keep an eye out for that one. The only bad thing I have to say about the season is that towards the end, it did slow down a little bit. It was like the quiet before the storm of episode 10. Now let me tell you, episode 10 delivered. It was amazing. The acting was amazing. The directing, I really like how they wrapped up this whole story of season 2. So out of 5 stars, I'm gonna have to give it 5 stars because the show is incredible. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. Like seriously, like one of my favorite shows of all time. When I started watching it, I couldn't stop. I was like, I pretty much binge watched the whole season 2 in like a matter of 2 days. The acting, the directing, everything was incredible. So going into the season, I was like, is there going to be a season 3? Well, Netflix pretty much answered that question by putting out this video. Now moving on to the film Hands of Stone, starring Robert De Niro and Edgar Ramirez, about the life of the boxer Roberto Duran. And I watched this movie a couple of weeks back, so I wanted to cover on the show today because I thought it was kind of a shame how the movie kind of just came and went. I barely saw advertisements for it, and when I watched it that opening weekend in the theaters, I kid you not, the theater was pretty much half empty. And then when I checked Rotten Tomatoes for the reviews, it had it somewhere at like 30% fresh. And I was like, were they watching the same movie that I watched?
Roberto Duran, the man with the hands of stone.
We are in for a serious fight. That's it. That's it.
I watched this movie and I think just the acting alone should have gave this movie better reviews from the critics, because there are some scenes with Edgar Ramirez and Robert De Niro that are so good, that chemistry's there, and there's also some really good scenes with Ruben Blades and Robert De Niro. And by the way, Ruben Blades is starting to become one of my favorite actors. He's also in Fear the Walking Dead, so he did a great job in this one as well. Also, Edgar Ramirez brings a lot of charisma to this role, and also the kid that played his younger self does a great job. I think what a lot of critics didn't understand understand about this movie is that it's not just a boxing movie. There's a lot of historical aspects to this movie, the conflict between Panama and the US. There's a lot of elements there that make this movie interesting. Now, the big problem that I have with this movie is that the fight scenes were a little bit choppy and it's hard to follow the action. I also didn't get a sense of what made these fighters so great. Last year, one of my favorite movies was Creed because the fight scenes were directed and choreographed really well and the fight scenes felt real. It was easy to follow the action. With Hands of Stone, the constant jump cuts were a little distracting. So overall, I think it's a good movie. I think it's definitely underrated. And out of 5 stars, I'm giving it a solid 4 because the movie has a lot of heart, a lot of charisma, and a lot of good performances. So that's it for today's show. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Peace.